Hi, I was just cleaning my teeth because you said 3 minutes.
And it was.
Yeah, but then I started having a conversation with Bob about redecorating. All ist klar, as they say in Germany.
What did they say in Germany?
All ist klar. All is clear, all is good, all is fine.
Like tout okay.
If you say so.
Is like everything's okay in Italian.
What do they say? Tout okay?
Yeah, tout okay.
I like that.
So do I really love it.
In Portugal, it's tudo bem. Everything is well.
Yeah, tutto a posto, tutto bene. That's great. We seem to have started. We've fallen into a showing off our other languages at the beginning of.
Yes,
or maybe showing off's not quite the right way of describing it.
I think it is for you because your language skills are genuine and deep, and you can do all sorts of like verby stuff.
Yeah, I wouldn't overestimate my my skills on that.
How long have you been learning Italian now?
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember actually in a restaurant in a West End town.
Call the police as a madman around. Running down underground to a dive bar. Oh, how we age ourselves.
That's so funny because it was just all abstract until you move to a place like this, and then suddenly a song from the 1980s?
1980s, yeah.
Becomes real in a whole different way. Yes, in a restaurant, and it was with a group of Italians, many of whom were visiting. They weren't Londoners, and one of them, a lawyer, was asking me how long I'd been learning Italian. 6 months, a year.
Oh.
I know.
This is a podcast in which two friends have serious conversations about silly things and silly conversations about serious things.
I'm Simon Ellis.
And I'm Lee Miller.
Welcome to Midlifing. I've been talking way too much this morning and have decided that you should do all of the talking for a change in today's episode of Midlifing.
If anybody had ever heard the unedited versions of these podcasts, you would know in this moment Simon is being terribly sarcastic because most of my job is simply excising as much as I possibly can of me and trying to find the 3 to 4 words that Simon has been able to shoehorn into our conversations.
No, it's not true.
Okay, 5 to 6 words.
I was going to ask you something.
Go on.
Actually, I have done a lot of talking this morning already with a friend from New Zealand who I think I would call him a faithful listener. And he said, yes, you guys have. It's clear that you're doing an excellent spoof of an intellectual podcast.
I'm both delighted and wounded by that.
Exactly, and I think that's exactly how it was meant. But then he was wearing a Superman T-shirt, and so I have a test for you. I'm going to start with a quiz. Superman. Mm-hmm. What there is a logo on his
hope.
Oh, you motherfucker!
It means hope in Krypton. Kryptonese. It's not an S. This is a relatively new addition to law. It used to be an S for Superman, but in recent years...
Did it really used to be an S for Superman?
Yeah, of course it was. Like in the 1930s, it was an S for Superman because this was a man who lifted up cars. The kind of the complex mythology... I guess it's sort of from the 80s onwards. In DC lore, I guess it really starts with Crisis on Infinite Earths, where it really kicks off.
I love that I didn't even get to ask the question.
I'm not going to tell you any more about the lore of comic books because it will just expose me as the massive tool that I actually am.
You'll also just have to cut it out. So think of yourself as saving time for yourself in the future. I read that in one of my productivity blogs. Oh, God. How are you? How are you, Lee Miller?
I'm good, Simon Ellis. I'm good.
I've spent the week, I would say, in bed with Michael Sandel.
I'm going to need more.
Yeah, he's a philosopher.
Still, you're going to have to unpack this.
And I've been reading his book called The Tyranny of Merit.
Oh.
And it's a book about merit, the idea of the meritocracy. And it is... I have to be careful here because I don't want us to slip from being a spoof of intellectual...
to an actual intellectual podcast.
To an actual...
Don't worry, that's not going to happen.
In terms of someone picking at and revealing the mess of the concept of, in some world, what happens is based on anything to do with merit, and that's something that we should, let's say, support, he just hoes into it. It's riveting in relation to, in particular for me, class. It's just extraordinary. It's a really, really remarkable book. And I haven't quite got to finish, so I can't tell you what happens at the end.
Okay, good, because I don't want any spoilers.
Yes, I'm sure someone doesn't come out alive. That's my guess.
I got sent a book yesterday.
Oh. Do you know by whom?
Yes, I do. I got a sent a book by the author, a man called Jacob Wren, who is Canadian, and he's one of those multi-hyphenates. He's got lots of things that he does. A slashy. a slashy, if you will. Yeah.
Yes, dancer slash choreographer slash filmmaker
right.
slash.
Yeah, he writes, he makes performance projects, he's a curator, and he's a founder member of an arts organisation called PME Art. And he sent me his 2018 book called Authenticity is a Feeling, and I'm only one chapter in, but I am loving it. It's about affect and performance.
Do authors often send you their books?
No, this is the very first time it's happened. I got an email from him a couple of weeks ago, and he said, I hope you don't mind me reaching out. I've just finished reading your book Between Us, and I really liked it. Thank you so much. It was a really beautiful and lovely and generous and kind email. And then he said, I've written a book that you might be interested in. Can I send it you?
He's networking.
Well, yes, I guess.
I'm not saying in any facetious way either. He's doing that thing that we do as humans.
Yeah, it was just a really generous thing, I thought, because he could have just said, I read your book, it was nice, go away and read mine. But he actually sent me a copy, and I'm only a chapter in, but I'm really enjoying it.
Did you send him episode 1 of Midlifing as well?
I did.
You did?
I did actually say, oh, thanks. Here's another project that I collaborate on, which that just made me feel really awkward. Really awkward.
Your awkwardness is great. Hey, I see that we've had a text message.
We have. In the second week of opening ourselves up to scrutiny, we have been sent a text message from a friend we have in common. Are you going to read it?
I'm going to read it.
Cool.
Do we say who it's from?
Well, we said Ruby last week, so we probably should use the name of the person's... I think it's 2 of them, isn't it? Is it?
Yes, it is. It's from Craig and Josh.
I'm just going to pause here and say, if you have never had a cocktail made by Craig, you are missing out. He is the finest... Oh, Simon.
I've never had a cocktail made by Craig.
He's moving to London soon. You have to basically invite him round and say, please make me a cocktail. I mean, he's a delightful human being for many reasons, but he's like an alchemist.
I can't wait for Craig to... Do you think I would be best to just go around to his house and say, make me a cocktail? Or would I be better to...
I think if you invite him to yours, at least then you can say, here are all my booze items, do something exciting, as opposed to going to his house and expect him to not only let you in, but also use his booze items, which is what I do.
Good morning, lovely Simon and Lee. And just I like that he didn't say lovely Lee, he said lovely Simon and Lee.
I think you'll find that is a kind of a shared lovely Simon and Lee.
So that we are somehow a singular. Simon and Lee is a singular.
Yeah.
Thanks for asking us to offer something to pop into the conversation today. Less of a question, more of an idea. But we would love to hear you both chat around, single quote marks, making things with love. And then there are 2 little emojis. One is a cocktail, one is a dancing man who looks awfully like John Travolta from Saturday Night Fever. Happy podcasting. Love Craig and Josh. Big X, little x.
So I love this, and I also think that this is directly as a result of something that Bob said to Craig on Friday night. She said that perhaps the reason that his cocktails tasted better than anybody else's in the whole world is that he makes them with love. He's not doing it to show off. He's doing it because he really wants to pair the flavours with the person. And so he has a conversation with you about what flavour palette you like, what's the things that make you that tickle your mouth. And I didn't know that I was a person who liked a wet martini, but it turns out I like a wet martini.
That's less surprising than you knowing what the S on a Superman shirt stands for, frankly. Is this the same Craig that thought that a bottle of Verve paired well with...
with mozzarella sticks.
With mozzarella sticks?
Yes, and because he said a bottle of Verve will pair very, very well with fried food. And I'm going to say... he knows what he's talking about.
Yes. Totally makes sense because of having conversations about, this really is snooty, this conversation about Franciacorta with fried food. It's one of those things where you can go, with something with a really dry... Anyway.
You were drinking that for breakfast yesterday, is that right?
Maybe.
Everybody needs to know that Simon is about to have his birthday tomorrow as of the recording. And I got a text message with a photograph yesterday of the green pancakes that he'd made for himself, which look much better than they sound. And behind it was a bottle of wine. This was around about 9:45 in the morning.
I'm going to...
hugely
I might
impressed.
even put them in the show notes. Put that photo in the show notes.
You should.
Just for a laugh.
You should. I was so impressed that you were drinking wine that early.
Well, it was a Saturday morning.
As you said, you don't turn 53 every day.
You only get one shot at it.
Or even yesterday, you didn't turn 53 yesterday.
That's right, you did say. Is this actually, have I got it wrong? I thought your birthday was Monday. So making, I love that. And I love it because it also reminds me of that idea about gardening, that plants somehow know people who garden with love compared with people who don't. Last night I was doing some worm farm maintenance.
How are your fingernails? Are they still attached?
I had rubber gloves on.
Good lad.
Well, because I am basically swishing around in worm poo, and quite a lot of it. And I think when we had that hot spell, which we call summer, I think the worms basically went, fuck this shit, we're going down. And they went right down to the bottom of the worm farm, and they were swishing around in their own pee, basically. They were trying to stay cool. Mm-hmm. And a lot of them never really went back. And so I thought, I'm going to... I can't believe it. Anyway, you can just cut this all.
This is podcast gold. I want to know what happens to the piss-swimming worms. Tell me more.
Just in case you have any intellectual illusions. And so I basically relocated hundreds and hundreds of worms. And some of them are very small. When I say very small, I mean, baby worms are baby. They're really, really tiny. Yeah. And I tried to do this. I tried to save as many as I possibly could. And I felt like I was doing it with care, but love. So my question is, what's the difference between doing something with love and doing something with care?
Okay.
Because the word's precise, isn't it? It didn't say to make something with care.
No. So I guess to make something with care is how you approach baking with care. Yeah, because you think about percentages.
I actually don't these days that much, but yes.
I know. But let's pretend.
Yes. Let's keep that narrative going of me being the uptight. Let's swing with that.
Okay, but let's just reflect. How many timers have you had go off this morning?
You're calling me anal retentive, aren't you? It's fine. It's fine. Water off a duck's back. I've got thick skin. Or as we like to say in New Zealand, thick skin.
Thick skin. You've got thick skin. I was saying that in that sense that, when you make something with percentages in mind, you're making it with care. Because you're being careful, you're being thoughtful, you're being attentive. Doesn't necessarily mean you're making it with love. Now, I know that you are. But I'm not saying that anybody who is being attentive in that way is necessarily imbuing it with a sense of, I really want the people who get this to be happy.
I like that. So it's not because you could be following a recipe and still doing something with love.
Oh, absolutely. I'm not saying that if you are a dogged recipe follower, you are not doing something with love. So Bob made my dinner last Saturday, which is an occurrence rare enough for me to be able to not count them on one hand, but be able to say, oh, Bob made my dinner.
And Bob's your wife.
And Bob's my wife. And she made me a burnt peach and burrata salad with...
Sorry, burrata?
Burrata, as in the...
burrata, okay.
Oh, sorry, I didn't roll my R.
Burrata. You can say burrata. I don't give a shit. I really don't. Although Italian word of the day, an important feature of midlifing, of course. There's a word, there's a type of food which is commonly toast with a bit of garlic rubbed into it and tomato and maybe some basil and olive oil.
I know what this is.
Can you tell me what it is and how do you say it?
I think you're describing to me bruschetta.
Oh, you're so close.
How should I say it?
So how do you spell it first?
B-R-U...
B-R-U-S, yep, and then what?
B-R-U-S-C-H?
Yep.
E-T-T-A?
Perfect. Okay, so what you said, I think, so everyone, bruschetta. Mm-hmm. So what you said was bruschetta, so you put an
I put an extra
sound.
I in, yeah.
Yeah, you did. Try it again one more time. One more time for the listeners.
Bruschetta.
Oh, sorry, I missed it. I was laughing.
Sorry, hang on. Oh, God.
Could you do it with a Western, an accent, an Italian man in from the west of England?
Hang about. All right, my lover. Bruschetta. No, I can't. Bruschetta? No, I can't. That's awful.
Just push that second T a little more, Lee. Push that second T.
Bruschetta.
Oh, I love it.
Bruschetta. Okay, so
yeah,
is that the Italian word of the day?
Yep.
Cool.
Just if I hear any of our listeners say bruschetta, I'm gonna.
Ooh, you're gonna lose your shit.
No, sorry.
Is it like it's like gnocchi, isn't it?
Yep. Totally. Before I rudely interrupted with the Italian word of the day, ding, 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 ding. Italian word of the day on midlifing.
Yeah, we were talking about making things with love, and we were talking about the idea that Bob was making me a burnt peach and burrata salad with crushed pistachios, and also a tomato pasta thing. Which had a name.
My goodness, that sounds incredible.
It really was. It was. It was I often say this about Bob's cooking, but it's like the finest food I've ever eaten because it is always. Well, first of all, she follows recipes to the letter. She weighs everything out. She is so precise. And I'm going when if I come and find her in the middle of a process, I'm like, you can just shorthand it this way, and she's like, nope, this is how it is done. But it is always done with such love. Always.
Has Bob ever cooked for a group of people, meaning if you've got people coming round? I know that, back in the old days.
To my knowledge, Bob has never cooked for anybody except me.
Oh. And I want to say that I really love that idea that the difference between care and love in this context is that you are keeping in this case, the person who's going to eat the food, or the listener, or the watcher, or the other person, you're keeping them in mind.
Yeah.
That the execution isn't the critical thing. Mm-hmm. Do you think that's accurate?
I think that's accurate, and that's what, to go to Craig and his cocktails, that's what it feels like is happening, that this is being made for me. It's not being made. It's not being made. It's being made with care, for sure. It's being made with expertise, absolutely. But this is like, he did this thing where he got a little bit of, I hope this isn't a trade secret and he'll get mad at me for telling people, but he just took a bit of lemon zest and just sort of squeezed it so that it released some of the lemon oil just around the stem of the glass so that my fingers would smell of lemon after I'd finished holding the glass. I mean, come on.
And
that
I know,
is just fucking gorgeous.
But I want to know, is it because he knows you, right?
He does know me, that's true.
And so how do you make something with love if you don't know the person? Oh, I really like this idea. I really do. It's because because there's so many things that we do that you wouldn't imagine could be filled with love. And I think cocktails are not an example in the sense that because they evoke a particular way of being, don't they? Relaxing, end of the day, weekend, whatever, sitting by a beach, little umbrellas. But there are also all sorts of things we do which don't evoke those kinds of images, that I wonder what it would be like to do those things with love. Oh, that was a beautiful question.
It really was, wasn't it? Thank you so much to Craig and to Josh for taking the time to ask us that question. And I'm sorry that Craig was then sort of put into the middle of the response, but it's hard not to sort of take his.
Yeah, that was the context was, but also it does mean that hopefully it won't just be me knocking on his door once he moves to London in order to demand with love a cocktail.
So you're hoping that just lots of people who listen to Midlifing will rock up and say, "Can you make me a wet martini?"
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. So what makes a wet martini wet? It's something about the.
It's the proportions.
It's about the vermouth.
Yeah.
And do you think we should? Do you think we should keep asking people to do this?
I think it's nice for a little bit longer, for sure.
What a pleasure! What a pleasure, Lee. And I also, just to be inspired as well, I felt quite inspired by that. And we didn't talk about death once, which is just great.
We did really, really well. I mean, that's not 2 weeks on the bounce, but it's 1 week.
Yeah, we'll back to subject normal next week. But I just wanted to ask you one more thing. Have I got time to do that?
Yeah, for sure.
Because you do the editing, right? Mm-hmm. You know that.
I do know.
What, other than Bruce, what's the thing that you feel like the most common? Has there been a particular subject matter which you think, yes, that's been cut the most?
Well, I think I've probably cut Gaylords of Darkness out as often as I've cut out Bruce Springsteen. There might finally be a link in the show notes. Because I've mentioned it on multiple occasions to you, and it's never made its way in.
Yeah. But Gaylords of Darkness hasn't become a verb like to Bruce.
No, well, because I don't know how you would Gaylord it. I think it would be in
to Gaylord of Darkness.
To Gaylord, that would be. I think to Bruce it is fine. I think it's more that there are little obsessions of ours individually that kind of come up,
come back.
And sometimes we refer back to something that we've said that I've cut out, so it becomes a constant. A sort of like I have to keep an eye on that because we've never really talked about it.
It's an editing echo.
Yeah.
Or an edited echo.
Yeah. So there are some things that have been removed a lot only because of repetition.
Yeah.
So Bruce Springsteen and Gaylords of Darkness will be 2 examples. And then in terms of topics, I think probably I have removed the most material about critical race theory.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that is something that has been a word I love, adjacent to many of the conversations that we've had, and sometimes we've tipped into it and tried to negotiate it. But I think in the conversation, in the process of talking to one another, we both sort of throw our hands up in the air and go, don't know how to finish this sentence. And so things are unresolved for us, and so they become unresolvable for a listener.
Not that things should be resolvable, right?
No, they shouldn't necessarily be resolvable, absolutely, but I think they should at least be listenable.
Yes, I was thinking maybe that might have been the, but also, and also partly because I feel like maybe we come at it from quite different perspectives, but I don't know that for sure.
I don't think it's our difference that makes it difficult. I think it's that there are some topics. Okay, so death is something that we will all encounter. And we've all encountered it to a greater or lesser degree at various points in our life, but we know that nobody's getting away from it.
It's a great leveler.
Yeah. So when we talk about it, we know that we can talk about it And however triggering or upsetting it might be for a listener who might be going through a grieving process, they're in a moment of their experience where it is particularly prevalent for them. And that has been the case for both of us in various moments that we haven't necessarily foregrounded in our conversations. But we don't feel that we have to dance around it because it's ours. It will be ours, and it has been ours, and all of those sorts of things. I think when it comes to the idea of, for example, critical race theory as one example, I think we've also... There's been some stuff about gender in terms of our male privilege. I think we often own our difficulty to be able to finish a thought process quite comfortably with one another and then just sort of can shrug it off. And yeah, you're right. We don't need to finish conversations for audiences, but I do think we owe it to our listeners not to poke them.
Oh, yes. That would be, in fact, that would just be too easy. Effectively just a prod, because that's shock jock kind of terrain, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's just a...
Yeah, and I think there is stuff that we say that might make people suck air through their teeth, kind of like... But I hope that their discomfort is the cringe they feel for us in what we have exposed of ourselves, rather than them going, "Ooh, I can't believe you are those people."
Yeah.
And now that makes me angry, anxious, and they don't have a right to reply in the way that they would if they were part of the conversation with us.
But we are those people, though, Lee. In some way, in some shape or form, we are those people.